Yes, what's going on? Woo! What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Lion's Den with Seth. I'm Seth, and we got Miss Patrice. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing
Uh-oh.
great. How are you?
There you go, doing good. So, for those of you that haven't been on the show before, welcome, welcome, welcome. And what we do here, we focus on all things dealing with leadership, growth, and development from the household to out in the community. So, do us a favor, hit that share button. Let us know that you support this movement of really connecting with individuals in the world and even with yourself. You get what I mean? How's everything with you, Miss Patrice? And what do you think about this show?
Oh, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
hmm So,
Absolutely.
so what do you think about friends at this stage of your life, and why it's important to have those type of those solid people in your life?
Well, I think compared to when I was younger, I think I require more out of a friendship.
Mm,
Um, I see the value of friendships now more so than when I was younger.
So, like for example, give me an example.
For example, when you were younger, I think you were just hanging with your friends because you had some things in common.
hmm
I think now I look for some different qualities within my friendship.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And you're absolutely right. I can agree with that because as you grow and as you have different experience, you realize that wait a minute, those things that was cool back in the day was not on today. So those individuals that I
Mhm.
want to be, that are friends with me, they need to know that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a real good conversation, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to introduce a good friend and a mentor of mine. Y'all, look, let me tell you about this brother very, very briefly, okay? This is Dr. Terrence Duncan. He's a distinguished expert in urban economics, leadership, and strategy, holding a doctoral degree of business administration from Walden University and an MBA from Park University, my own alma mater. But he, with over 15 years of experience in healthcare, risk management, and organizational behavior, he's made significant contributions to reducing claims loss and fostering enterprise growth through innovative strategies. A three-time published author, Dr. Duncan is known for his acclaimed works, The Four Fits of Holistic Growth and The Four Fits of Dynamic Leadership, which provide actionable items into personal development and organizational efficiency. His expertise has been shared globally through academic journals, international conferences, and numerous workshops. He also serves as a professor and research methodologist, holds multiple nonprofit board positions, and mentors small Black businesses through the Mahogany Legacy Project. Additionally, he's a founder of JI Enterprise, a strategic consulting firm blending academic knowledge and professional experience to deliver tailored solutions. And his commitment to socioeconomic advocacy and leadership aligns seamlessly with today's episode, friends, and family. So he offers invaluable insights on building connections and navigating personal and professional growth. And I don't want to just breeze by the fact he's also a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes, welcome the great Dr. Duncan.
Hey, what's going on?
Damn.
Oh, look at that. I got clap.
Yeah, you
Ooh.
get claps. Hey,
Big
we took
clap. Big
moments,
claps.
baby. Yeah. What's up, man? How you feeling, homie?
Pretty good, pretty good. I look like Batman with the background stuff, but I apologize for the lighting, but you know how that goes.
No, it's all good, bro. It's all good. So, man, look, let's just go right into it, man, and just help us and talking to our audience. But yeah, just share a little bit of your professional background and how you know it informs everybody on understanding relationship dynamics, especially at this stage of life?
It's funny that you asked that question as it relates to the actual topic of the show itself. And when you think about friends, it's really about your associates and who's in your circle. And I know the phrase or was it your network is your net worth or something to that effect. But it really is true, because if you surround yourself with the right people, build that team, they may not work for you per se. They may not be a 1099 or W-2 employee, but that team that you build around you, there should be people that should not only compliment you, but challenge you to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. And so my journey, which I'm not going to go into a large part, how I got here was really based on the relationships I had. So a lot of the bad decisions that I made were based on the circle of people I was around. And some of the great decisions I made was based around the people that I was around, and somewhere in between, there was people I've yet to meet. And so as you continue to navigate through life, you really just kind of start picking apart what really complements you best to your personality. And then you just make whatever moves that you need to make strategically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
What you got, Patrice?
I what I've been thinking about is we evolve and we get older. How do you exit a friendship?
Mm.
How do I exit a friendship? I believe,
How do
and
you
Seth and I,
exit a friendship? What's the best way to do that?
yeah, absolutely. No, and what I was going to say is that I've actually had this conversation privately with Seth a lot of times. There's something about being organic in relationships. I think that a lot of times we feel like that we're the best chess players on the board in the game of life, but a lot of times you just have to let those relationships dissolve naturally. I think anytime that you try, because you really don't know really the purpose of that particular relationship. Sometimes that relationship can show you a lot about who you are as a person. Sometimes it can make be a reflection of some of the more challenging traits that you've had in your journey in your life. But I think that by letting stuff, start and end organically, there's you don't have any preservatives, fillers, or fluff or anything like that. Because some of the people that you may not get along with in the beginning may actually be of value add not only to your professional circles, but even on your personal circle. So just because somebody doesn't think like you or talk like you or have the same taste, appetites, fraternity selection, right, Seth? By the end of the day, it's all about how you grow through those evolutions. And again, it's like organic, it's like seasons. Some people I've had relationships with people for well over 15, 30 years. And when I first met them, I never thought that we would be cool like that, right? There's some people I've known for 15, 30 years. I talk to them sparingly. Does that mean that we're not friends anymore? Not necessarily. It's just the way I just interact differently. What I'm trying to do in my walk of life is different than theirs, and I accept that. I don't challenge it. I don't, belittle or look down on them. And so just by really focusing on who I am as a person really makes a big difference. So if people don't want to maintain a relationship with me, that's a prerogative. Make the choice whenever you want. But for myself, I just kind of just go with the flow, and then just whatever happens, happens.
I like that. I like you said that because that makes sense. You can't control individuals as far as how they see you and things of that nature, but I believe it is important to know how to navigate with that. So that brings me to this next question. So what do you think, or why do you think, excuse me, evaluating the quality of our friendships is critical, both personally and professionally?
I mean, look at everything that's going on in this country, right? Two things really: what's going on in this country today, about a lot of topics that's very polarizing to many, like today's Black History Month, the second day of Black History Month. And you talk to a lot of people who are Black, they fundamentally believe that you don't need a month to celebrate Black history, nor do we need a mandate to celebrate Juneteenth, right? Some people feel, otherwise. Is there a right or wrong answer on that? It just depends on perspective. Look at what I teach my students. I always say that there's more millionaires than there are people with terminal degrees. So who's to say that they have a better path to life? If you have a terminal degree, a doctoral degree, the chances of you reaching the millionaire is relatively high. But people with a bachelor degree, if I remember, it's like 30, 35%, they can become a millionaire. So does really educational attainment really equate to wealth? It just depends on the work that you put in between. So it just really, I guess it just really, you just kind of, as you said earlier about being older, you just hopefully try to have a different set of lens to look at things with a different set of clarity. And you just treat people for how they are. I mean, because when you start kind of change your energy to match their energy, right? There's just going to be such a large disconnect. You're not going to be able to, you're disconnecting yourself from who you are as a person, and you're trying to attach yourself to somebody else's energy. So if somebody is like messy and they're full of drama, if you continue to be around their energy, at some point in time, you're going to gravitate to that because it's imprinted into your spirit. It's imprinted to your personality. But vice versa, if you're around a person and you move a certain walk of life, and that person desires to seek a change, you might be that template for change for that individual. They may not necessarily mean that they're going to be friends with you for 15, 20 years. It may last in a month. They may look at your relationship with each other and stuff as a template that's appealing, but they can't, be in that light. And so they have to separate. Does that necessarily mean that there's something wrong with you? No. It's just that maybe it's their self-awareness. But again, it goes down to the individual identities and beliefs, and even the philosophical differences that people have that we must continue to try to respect.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead, Patrice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're
I
into
definitely, I'm sorry. I was so engrossed with what he was saying. I was thinking.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what he's saying. I also believe that when you have a friendship, it should be evolving all the time, almost like a relationship.
Yeah.
You need to get to know your friend, the quirks of your friends, what they like, what they don't like.
Yeah.
It should be a beneficial friendship, relationship, or however you see it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so yeah, what you think about that though, bro, as far as like reciprocity, right? Because individuals may not be able to give the same, in the same capacity, but do you agree or believe that there should be some give and take on both sides?
Before I answer the question, I do want to apologize again for being so dark on this camera, because I feel like I'm one of those CBS interviews and stuff when they got the microphone. It's like, what do you think, Dr. Duncan?
Right.
So
You
I
stupid.
just threw myself off with the
Right,
because I keep looking at myself. I was just like, man, I can't see myself. So, I believe in transformational relationships, meaning that if you go into any kind of relationship, whether it's marital, personal, professional, co-working, fraternal, sorority, common associates and stuff. If you're trying to make things transactional, you're more likely going to have a failed relationship. I've learned that the hard way. Again, you heard me say this several times. You have to accept people for how they are, uh, because they know where their strengths and their challenges are. They know where their shortcomings and their abilities are, their superpowers. And just because you were able to figure it out at the age that you were, or that you had these certain breaks of life, doesn't mean that everybody can manifest that same energy as you. And even if you see people that's somewhat on that same plane, your relationships are still not going to be the same as the next person. So I could be in a room for other PhDs and we're talking about XYZ. If I'm not feeling them, I'm not feeling them. Right. And I don't have to be in their energy just because, or constantly be engaged in their energy. Oh, shut Siri. So, I don't have to feel like I have to be constantly around them 24/7 just because we're in a professional conference, or if they're in an academic conference, or whatever the case may be. So I think that I'm wired differently. Seth, you know me for about 3 or 4 years. And so I bring a different level of thunder to everything that I do. And so if I expected, Patrice, or if anybody else to match that energy, then I'm setting myself up for failure as far as that relationship. I'm measuring myself. I'm measuring that other person's worth to my value system, my principles, and how I roll. Because again, I tell my students and I tell people when I do consulting or coaching that there's over I think like 21 million millionaires or something like that. And every path to a millionaire is different. Nobody's going to have the same identical path to being a millionaire, nor is everybody going to have, some people can get their degrees super early. right? I tell people all the time, I flunked out of college like 2 or 3 times. I dropped out of my doctoral program. I still never would have thought I would do the stuff that I'm doing today, but that's my energy. That's my walk of life. I guess I learned and I embrace failure to the point that if, failure does happen, I don't care for it, but it does help me elevate my brand as a person. But not everybody reacts to failure and challenges the same way. Some people will capitulate. You may not even know I'm really having a bad day today and stuff, but because I made a commitment because of my principles and how I'm grounded, I'm going to honor that commitment, right? You could have a bad day and say that I'm going to do this live stream recording, even if I just had an argument an hour ago, right? So, but does that mean that, but how many people will be in similar situations, they could send a text message like, bro, I ain't feeling it. Sorry, sister girl. I mean, it's kind of like a great idea or something comes up. How annoyed do you get when people cancel on you in their last second, right? It's not you. I'm pretty sure. And if you sat there and nobody has a camera, it's not like, like it's like what you call it, reality shows where somebody can really see what's going on all the time. But typically when they behave in a certain way or if they react a certain way, it's on them. That's not on you. And you have to stop personalizing. That was one of my biggest challenges, not saying my final step of evolution, but my latest evolution of who I am as a person, because I always feel that we have that capability of evolving, but it's to realize that it is them more so than it is me, and not in a negative light, right? But that's just meaning that I move and think and react and interpret things at a way much different level than that person. It's just the difference is I may not engage you on the back and forth a little bit longer than maybe that you would with me, right? Or maybe you would with somebody else. Or if you go to a particular spot and you're always critical of something, and you may not even realize that you're being critical of something, right? And so you can get offended by it, but why are you getting offended by it based on somebody else's words? You have to learn how to tune all that out. Nor at the same time, some people may think I'm a little bit too optimistic and maybe I'm too cheery for their own good, but catch me off. But cheery and catch me off camera though, it's a whole different story, right?
Totally, right.
Yeah, totally different, right?
No.
Man, I could sound like what's that thing like no dogs allowed on Snoop. Yeah, I could sound like some no dogs allowed in this mug. But most people see me as a cheery person, but
they don't know.
Relationships should not be viewed as transactional. I just think that the moment that you do, it doesn't matter if it's an intimate relationship with somebody else or somebody that you just know and y'all just real cool and y'all just started vibing and going somewhere, that other person really doesn't owe you anything unless they want to give that to you.
See, I like that, man. And I'm learning that as well, how important it is not to take certain things personal, and people are responsible for their own actions. You are not. Right now, and there's things, right? Obviously, in friendships, any type of relationship, things are going to happen that you don't appreciate. How you communicate that, I believe, will either strengthen the relationship or actually break it on down, because people can be, so, taking this so personal, they can be offended extremely quick, and they can't let it go. You get what I mean? So what were certain things that helped you? I know you touched on a little bit, but what are certain things that helped you to let certain things go, to realize that, hey, it's not all about me? Because in a way, by not identifying that, you're making it about you, and that's your ego being in place of that. How did that resonate with you?
Can I use a bad word?
Yeah, you grow. Yeah, we are here.
All right. Reality smacks in your ass. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, I've lost a lot of people that even if I apologize to, I know that I will never be able to build that bridge again because of maybe the actions I did. Maybe it was a disagreement. I didn't respect their boundaries. Maybe I didn't respect their peace. You start looking at from a perspective of loss, right? And so when you see that you lost a lot of people, I've lost a lot of people over last year, tragically, and stuff and whatnot going on. But I realized that life is really short and tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so is it really worth, losing your cool over for an extended period of time? Or one of my things I would say is it really worth for you tossing and turning in that bed, whether the person lays right next to you or another house or another city is sleeping good like a baby, you know what I mean? Because you're just angry, and then how's it affecting your overall health? And so Does that mean that I'm very passive from here on out? No. I think I'm a little bit more assertive, but I'm more judicious on how assertive I'm going to be in certain conversations. But I just allow people to be what they are, and if they really want to rock with you at any level, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it because they want to do it. And no matter how persuasive, how charming you may be, or how charismatic you may be, or how introverted you may be, or standoffish, or whatever the case may be, that other person has to make that conscious choice. You cannot make that conscious choice for them. You may even know that person inside out like a book, but you still don't know what's in their heart and what makes them tick. And so, because of that, we're not telepathic. Um, you just got to take things, even if it's uncomfortable for yourself, because you don't know whatever the dynamics may be. Having that uncomfortability and stuff really help bring about the awareness. But if I could just, and I know the people who I could apologize for, that I mean apologize to, they'll probably, if they saw this podcast, they probably wouldn't even watch it, right? They see my name and stuff, they probably could try to like the Facebook app on their phone if they could. But that is the type of disconnect that I had with people over my lifetime. And so I don't regret it, because I don't try to live with regrets, but they are valuable learning lessons because they came in my life for a season that happened organically, right? And then so for me, it was time for, I had to pick up my own self to figure out, next time I'm in a situation, what could I have done differently?
Correct.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. There's been a couple of friendships, one in particular where I felt it was exhausting. I felt it was draining. I felt like I was putting more into the friendship than what the other person was putting into the friendship. Every time I talked to the person, it was something negative. And don't get me wrong, as a friend, you should be there for your friend and help to build them, make them stronger, whatever complication or anything that they're going through, be there for them, be a shoulder to cry on, sympathy, empathize, all of those things. But sometimes a friendship can be exhausting, just like a relationship can be exhausting. So I think compatibility is very important when you're trying to, select your friends. And I'm always skeptical of someone who's our age and or in our age bracket, and they don't have a go-to friend or a best friend. For me, that's like a red flag. When you're this age and you don't have an established relationship or friendship with someone, I'm always a little skeptical about that, because if you're in your 40s and you don't have a bestie or somebody that you can count on, I almost want to take a second look at the person and say, well, why don't you have any healthy relationships, any healthy friendships? What's really going on? You shouldn't be looking for your best friend and you're 45 years old. You should have, I would say, at least found them or have some type of relationship, friendship with them by now. So yeah, I've had to exit stage left on a couple of friendship, just because it didn't suit me. It didn't suit me. It was very, very draining. Yeah.
What you
And
think?
I think those are valid points and stuff, but I think it kind of goes back to, I think that you have a selection criteria, which is fine. But I guess for me, I run into a lot of interesting people in a lot of interesting places. I used to travel a lot. I used to be in redneck towns. I used to be in sundown towns. I would be in, all black neighborhoods, all white neighborhoods, all black conferences, all white conferences, mixed conferences, um, hood, Bel Air's type spots. It's everybody. I just kind of look at it like almost everybody's different, but also there's a lot of similarities in these different spots as far as like certain experiences or even the thought process, like what you're saying. But also there's a lot of trauma and stuff that people haven't effectively dealt with. And so, to your point, I think that, why is that person struggling to have a healthy relationship? Is because they're struggling to have a healthy relationship with themselves. And then, or they wanted to define and some people are very binary when it comes to, categorizing their relationship. So it has to be boyfriend, girlfriends, what's it called? What it call it? Sneaky link, whatever you want to call it, right? Husband, partner,
Right.
homie, whatever you want to call it, right? But by the end of the day, some people are very binary, and it's hard for them to get out of that 0-1 dynamic, right? Everything
Mm.
0-1, 0-1, 0-1, 0-1. And so, and then the other thing too is like, what kind of trauma did they actually experience from their relationships? It starts off at home, in a lot of ways and stuff, because you know, a lot of it's stuff, whether it be racism, whether it's hypersexuality or whatever the case may be, often tends to start at home. And in their internal, I mean, you know, their natural neighborhood, the environment is their initial worldview. And then if they don't get out of that worldview, they're going to continue to manifest their worldview. And so by the time they run to an individual like yourself, you want to become a threat to them because they've never seen your worldview before. You're a foreigner to them. And so that takes time for them to adjust. And so just as you're looking at them like, wow, why don't you have XYZ going on in your world? They're looking at you the same way, like, oh, she must think, and I don't know you, so she must think that she's better than people because she has friends. You know what I mean? Because somebody could take that one little conversation,
Yep,
and sit there, and all three of us can sit there and dissect anything that we say based on that conversation. And again, that's just how people are wired. But I've worked, and especially with actually with Black men and women. So as far, I mean, really, there's no difference. Men suffer just as much, probably exponentially worse than women, only because of the fact that men don't have they typically don't have an outlet to express. Men are not social creatures. We're not, no, they're not raised. Black men are not raised typically to be social, right? They're not meant to, or they never was really raised to show expressions of love or you know, compassion and things like that, or tears. Women, it starts off with more dynamic social constructs and maintain the social constructs, right? More than anything else. It's not just by cheese bone. So for me, if I see a brother that's actually emoting himself and he feels a certain type of way, I don't look at that anymore as a detriment. I used to look at that as a detriment, and now I'm one of those people. If you get me upset, I could cry, and I could care less about it. But if you have a problem with it, I can whoop your ass too. So it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? But I think that it just really depends on the lens that we have at the time. And sometimes discernment really matters too. So if you're a high empath, rather than sitting here and looking at the superficial layers about that person's personality, you know, really get a chance before you decide to move forward or move away from them. Find out what you may know a little bit more, especially if they had some kind of intrigue to you, and maybe that you become their mentor without you actually being known as their mentor. So, like in the theory of leadership, or when it comes to leadership, there's this dynamic called followership. And to become a leader, you have to become a follower first. And even when you are a leader, you still continue to be a follower, because even if, you know, we're leaders in this room, right? But, you know, I know Seth is a avid reader. I read selectively on different topics. I don't really read a lot of books, but it's normally common for me throughout the year, maybe 3 to 5 times a year, to focus on seeing what other people are doing so I can learn from them, even though they never talk to me directly, whatever. That's followership. And then I take that energy when I'm around other people, I provide that energy that I've learned or the exposure and make that an opportunity for leadership. And so I think that having that eclectic mix of individuals that are either high performing, higher energy, and maybe, you know, struggling in certain ways, helps provide that balance, that healthy balance that you may need and stuff, because you never know how your influence and your energy can provide comfort to the individual that you might be talking about. I'm not saying everybody, because I mean, discernment will tell you, hey, I can't, you know, mess with you no more. But in a lot of those situations and stuff, what I have found is that there's a lot of layers, even in their mid 40s and higher. And there's some people in their 50s, they still don't even know how to deal with the things that they dealt with between 18 and 22 years old. It has nothing to do about them being strong or weak, or they need to get over it. But it's just that's their walk in life, and they have to figure it out themselves. Nobody can figure it out but them. Even the person that they're dating or intimate with cannot make them change. They have to realize that that's what they have to do, and they can't just say it. They have to take the steps to be able to move forward.
right. So they have to want that change in order to, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I do agree with that. No, thank you for that. That made a lot of sense. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about friends. Do. How many of us have them? Right. For real, for real. You dig what I'm saying? I don't care how many Facebook friends you got. Listen, yeah. How many of them can you actually call for real? You know what? My boy today, Pastor Jeff, he was talking about, you know, individuals that can call on him because of who he is, right? Obviously a pastor and everything, very good, mentor, father, all of that. But then when he needs something, it's like crickets, you know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? And so it becomes draining. Right, it does become draining because you're constantly giving. But what happens when you're thirsty, ladies and gentlemen? That's what we're talking about. So I got something that I'm truly interested in understanding your point of it. You hit on it some, but if you don't mind expounding on what makes a friendship truly supportive versus draining.
Shout out to Pastor Jeff. I want to touch on what he said first. It reminds me of a conversation I had earlier today. When you choose to be subservient to folks, to others, whether it's to lead in a church or to lead an organization, to be the front of a fraternity or sorority, to be the front person of somebody that's leading community change or whatever the case may be, you'll never have your plates full from somebody that's going to take care of you. I think that the moment that you realize that particular aspect, I think that's when you take that next step. And I know Brother Jeff, Pastor Jeff, and I know that I struggle with that at times, because how many times people will pick up the phone and ask, how am I doing? Right? Or what can I do for you? I hear it once in a blue moon. I don't hear it often. Most people automatically assume that I have the time or whatever. And there was a couple of times where I actually provided I'm doing this thing where if you want to talk to me about your business, you're going to have to set a calendar link. A couple of people won't even holler at me on that because, I put boundaries. And so, but that's something I have to do for my own sake of mind, peace of mind and stuff, because there will be many nights where I'm exhausted because somebody wants me to do this, somebody wants to do that. I can have somebody ask me to do little things right now, and they may feel like it's a little thing, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to give them shit about it, whatever and stuff. But by the end of the day, they never sit there and ask, are you okay with that? Right. And even if I sit there and say that I'm okay, that I'm going to do something, I always, I had to stop looking at what are you going to do for me, because I created that culture and environment for somebody to do that. And so when you're subservient, you will readily create an environment where that person's not going to reciprocate that energy. And that's just who you are as a person. You have to accept that. I would love for, rose petals on my feet, and I would love to, I don't know, fly a hot air balloon or something like that. And somebody's blowing it, because if I was flying a hot air balloon, I want the balloon, and you know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here trying to clap the fire and stuff and make the fire go up in the balloon. But that's just who I am as a person. So that's my thoughts on that. And then to the question that you're talking about, I just think, again, it just comes down to discernment. I think that sometimes you have to slow everything down in your mind, and then sometimes you have to slow the conversation. How did you get to that particular point for that disconnect to occur, right? Was it something that was bubbling up? Did you have a bad day? And did you bring that energy to that? And you just, both of y'all got caught at the wrong time, and both of y'all was like, hey, you ain't the one. I think that sometimes even reflection, how often do you reflect as a person? I usually try to reflect around the end of the night, or sometimes I wake up at 4 o'clock and just reflect, which I hate. And then I go back to sleep. But
right.
I don't stress. I mean, I tell people I don't stress. I just sometimes I magically wake up at 4 o'clock and I can literally solve my problems. And I was like, oops, I forgot to type things and stuff. But, how often, and when you reflect, you kind of will see how your conversations went and stuff. Say, you know what, maybe I pushed that a little bit too hard. Maybe I thought that too hard. Maybe you're the source of the problem, not the other person. And so when we try to put ourselves in the other person's shoes with these conversations and situations, we kind of have to look at the whole picture before we kind of make the determination. Making a decision to terminate a friendship, or actually I saw something on Facebook, which I thought was really crazy, but to have an obituary for somebody where your friendship was dead.
Yeah.
And you saw that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was hollering. It's whack, but it was funny at the same time.
Yeah.
But but to make that decision and stuff, I mean, what are all the factors that came in? Because when you terminate a friendship with somebody, when you end a friendship with somebody, when you say that you're done, just think about how much damage that you're doing to the other person. Right? Why didn't you consider other options? Does that mean? They could be high friend category and drop them down to associate, or a high category friend, and just, or just somebody, hey, hang out with from time to time, and then if I see you, I see you, or maybe we just can't see eye to eye and stuff, and you're not, and y'all still Facebook friends and stuff, and you might like or comment or once in a blue moon and stuff, but you never want to catching up again and stuff. Truly, that's an organic action that kind of goes back to being organic, and then let the situation fall for itself. Because again, you just never know. Somebody could be an alcoholic, somebody could be struggling with drugs, somebody could have lost 3 or 4 people in 4 months and you never even knew about it. I could be struggling again. I said I could be struggling with something right now, and you would just never know, because that's just my professional public persona. Privately, I could sit there and say, yo, man, I'm struggling about XYZ, which I have to you many times before. But I just think that it has to be organic. Everything just has to be organic.
What you think about that, Patrice?
I agree. Everything definitely needs to be organic. And I also believe that when you have a friendship, it's important to see the value in the person, just like you would if you were in a relationship, with your significant other. You have to value the people that are in your lives. And sometimes when you're in a friendship, you just see it as a friendship. You don't. Some people don't really understand the gravity of a friendship, and they may not be able to honestly accept the role of being a friend. Some people like how the word friendship sounds, but they're not actually ready for the roles and the responsibilities of being a friend. It's just like being in a relationship. You have to understand what you bring to the table, even though I don't like saying what do you bring to the table, but it's really how are you representing yourself? What is it? How are you beneficial to the person, and how that person can be beneficial to you? You just don't step out on a friendship, just like you just don't step out on a relationship just because you have your differences. You try to find out, hey, what is making us different, or why can't we agree on this situation? And sometimes your differences is really what makes your friendship stronger. Because I know there are several weaknesses that I have, but I look towards my friends for their guidance, for their advice, because they may be able to see something differently than how I'm seeing it, or have a different perspective. So I think it's important for you to realize what is your role in the friendship and what is the end result that you're looking for.
Yeah, and providing value. I do agree with
Yeah.
that. What you was gonna say? Don't.
No, I was agreeing with that, and you took the word out of my mouth. What is the value, right? I mean, I say assets. Everybody has a role in your life,
Yep.
right? And sometimes God puts people, actually, God puts people in your life to teach you certain lessons. You don't know when that lesson's going to be. Don't make that decision prematurely, because then when you sit here, let's say that I was kicking it with Patrice, and all of a sudden me and Patrice kind of falling out and stuff. And then what happened if she got to a situation where one person that she knew she should have called was me? And her pride and everything else, because she forced the termination of their friendship, happened because she just, she wanted to stand 10 toes down on not picking up the phone and just saying, hey, I need help. And then what happens is it becomes a manifestation of rage inside your spirit, and it really eats at you inside, because you chose to terminate that because somebody slighted you or talked to you a certain way. Now, if it's a level of toxicity where it's completely unhealthy for you, you have to do what it is. You have to do. If it becomes a physical abusive relationship or a sexually abusive relationship, you have to do what you need to do. But when I'm talking about most general relationships and stuff, because you're mad because or you saw somebody doing this and that, or people treating you a certain type of way, maybe it's because you were a reflection of what they want to be.
Mm.
Seth, you told me that a lot of times.
Mhm.
It's like, maybe people are intimidated because the natural, you said the way that I move. It's not what I do, it's just the way that I move. It's with the ease in certain ways and stuff. Your words, not mine. And or paraphrasing. And so and the thing is that when people see that and they're sitting here and they're, 9 to 5, and they are, working 9 to 9, putting all these hours and things like that. And then I joke about taking naps or whatnot, which I don't joke, I actually do.
Right.
Some people may feel a certain some people may feel a certain type of way, because usually the first thing that they say, which is to me is a lot of shade, is that you're too busy. And I'm like, well, I'm not really too busy. So, well, you're all over the place. That's not necessarily true. So, by the end of the day, I think I might have to take this call. But so what I was going to say is that when we move, when we move a particular type of way, you don't know what the other person's thinking or viewing or feeling, right? But we just have to understand that we should not take everything as being personal. And then, maybe taking a break, a healthy break is beneficial. Or maybe if you just want to say, I don't want to be in this particular category of a friendship relationship, because all friendships are relationships, even though people don't look at it that way. Maybe I just need to be a fallback. I'll just check up on you once in the blue moons and let you get time to get your thoughts together. If somebody's going through a tragedy, I just had this conversation today about what's appropriate when somebody's going through something. Do you reach out to them immediately, or do you fall back for a couple of days, right? Or do you send a text the next day and say, hey, just want to let you know I was thinking about you, blah blah blah. There's all types of stuff that you could do in that situation and stuff. But the thing is that those two people have to determine amongst themselves individually first what makes best for that particular dynamic unit of relationship.
No, that makes sense. Hey, so look, did you have to grab that call, man? You need to go?
No, we could keep going.
Okay. All right, cool. Appreciate it, man. So I want to get into, first of all, thank you for all that. That makes a lot of sense. I want to get into the part of you that makes you who you are. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the urban economic strategies, especially like right now, and when it comes down to networking. So from your perspective, how do urban living conditions influence the types of friendships people form? And the reason why I'm saying this is because people can assume that a friend that's just a monolith, that's it, and I don't agree. And mainly because we're different people and we have different social, economic statuses, but we still must commune and connect with individuals. So what are your thoughts about that?
I think that it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about that worldview, and we talk about it a lot in doctoral circles, academic circles. What is your worldview? What's your vision, right? If you live in certain neighborhoods, so I use this example all the time. If you live in predominantly Black neighborhoods, big culture shock when you work in a predominantly white establishment, or you go to a predominantly white college, university, whatever the case may be. If a white person went to a predominantly Black school, how would they fare, right? Or if they walk into a bar, right, and they see like I don't know, 200 folks, they look like us, how would they feel, right? Especially if that's not the crowd that they're not used to. So bias really affects a lot of that, basically. And then, one thing the reason why, for me personally, I do a lot of stuff to the level that I do is because it's about exposure, because exposure brings about opportunity. So when I'm telling you and talking to you about certain things, I'm exposing y'all to different insights and perspectives on how to manage relationships and friendships. If you brought in somebody that's a financial advisor, you could be really good at your investing, but that financial advisor will probably open up new opportunities, maybe even tell you not to use crypto, right? But your homie tell you to use crypto. So, or some people that do FanDuel, some people don't. And then some people, because I use FanDuel, maybe you'll use FanDuel because you heard me talk about so much about FanDuel. At first, you didn't want to do FanDuel, but then you got on FanDuel. Those are worldviews. Those are opportunities and stuff that might appeal to a person's personality, and then they might go out to seek to explore it. If those worldviews has been stagnant, or if that worldview continues to be layered, and a lot of times it's based on systemic and institutional ways that these communities have been built historically across the United States, then you're going to have challenges of those worldviews. And you're seeing a lot of it play out right now in all circles and stuff, is because if you're stuck in one paradigm view, it's hard for you to accept or embrace another one. But if you have a more holistic worldview and stuff, you can temper a lot of what other people are saying. So when I hear stuff on things that I don't disagree with, I don't get upset about it. I used to, and I used to be very argumentative, and I used to be a whole jerk. But now, I just listen with patience. I may disagree. I'll point out my areas of disagreement. Depending on how the flow of the conversation is, I'll stop or I'll continue. But it all comes down to, when do you get that opportunity to see a little bit more? And it also makes me think about one of my mentees when I used to do a mentoring at the East St. Louis Charter School, the former East St. Louis Charter School. Think about this one student who was really intelligent, really capable and stuff, And I remember just like the path of trying to get her a degree and stuff. Now she has a PhD in forensic science, and she has a global job where she's traveling. I mean, her job is positioned in different parts across the country. So across the world, I'm sorry. That's not bad for what we would say when we joke around about it, for a young black girl from East St. Louis to be a PhD for a major chemical company stationed out in Britain, you know, and you know, like she wouldn't have got there unless she had that exposure, you know. Same thing with your relationships. You know, I didn't grow as a person until I started meeting people that had different worldviews and different ideas. And so, to your point about friendships, associates, and how you want to categorize them, I'm not binary with them, but they all have some kind of strategic value, or you know, for me. I learn a lot. If I pick up the phone, I may, you know, there's people. I lost my dad 7 years ago. There's still people who I pick up the phone and call who are relatively older than me. They don't even realize that stuff, but I call them because they remind me in a lot of ways of some of the stuff and the mannerisms of my father. You know, whereas if I want to kind of get back to my old school ways and stuff, I got friends I could, or you know, people I could reach out to, or just walk in certain spots and kind of feel that vibe again. So, but my worldview has changed a lot, but I don't expect everybody to match that type of worldview.
Mm. Good, good.
I
Stay with
agree. I agree with that. I think one of the viewers, correct me if I'm wrong, Seth, but I think one of the viewers stated that we all grow. We all, right. Yes, they have to want to grow on their own. And I think within this conversation, we've said some really good things about growth, value, and I like what Dr. Duncan said about having a holistic friendship. And I don't think a lot of people understand what the word holistic means. They, they can assume, but something that's natural, something that goes with the flow, that goes with what you believe in, goes with your moral compass and things like that. So I think evolving is important too. So evolving, growth, value, holistic, those are all things that I want to be associated with a friendship. And as you were saying, as you progress and as you get older, your views start to change, your wants, your needs, everything starts to change. So it's important that when you're in a friendship, that you're able to zone in on those things that are going to help the relationship grow better. That's going to help it to develop. And it's okay if you guys don't agree on, the same thing or have the same opinion. That's actually what makes the friendship, gives a longevity to the friendship, is seeing a different perspective from somebody else. So yeah, evolving, that's extremely, extremely important.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And for those who don't know what holistic is, think about it: left brain, right brain, right? Your left brain can only do so many things. Your right brain makes you do so many things, but it's your whole brain that makes you as a complete person. So think of holistic as being an entire circle, being spherical, and then just being able to move within that. If you're so, you know, like some people, they're stuck saying like whatever the signs is, like I'm an Aquarius or I'm a Libra or I'm a Gemini. You know, that's, you know, you choose to walk that particular path, right? I mean, show me the science where you're saying that because where you're born, you're going to act a certain way. Because if that's the case, everybody in that month is that same way. And that's not true. Excuse me. But, you know, we choose, or if we say, you know, I grew up in this particular neighborhood, you choose to embrace that type of energy. You choose to not, you know, evolve from that, as you would say. And so that's where you want to get in a lot of conflict. Or, you know, I said this to Seth many times, you know, the mind does what's familiar. And so it's a natural instinct, right? I mean, we're all animals at the end of the day, at our core being. And so if you're around drama, messy people all the time, you're going to always find drama, messy people all the time, you know? So if you are, you know, around church folk all the time and stuff, I mean, like literally, you know, all in 1,000%, you know, you're going to have that type of philosophical belief and mentality, you know, because again, no matter how strong that you feel that you are, different people in your environment, the neighborhoods, the places that you frequent, they all shape your narrative and your worldview. You just don't know it, you know. So, but you know, we're so egotistical a lot of times that we feel like that we could control that narrative. Or again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, like we feel like we're just perfect chess players and we're moving these pieces perfectly and stuff. And you know, the more you keep playing, you're always going to get to the point where you're going to catch an L. You know, so you know, rather than sitting there trying to move the board and trying to be, you know, manipulative in certain things, or whatever the case may be. So if you just kind of say, just, I'm going to walk this path and this is just how you are. Not to say that people can't, that take it and accept it, but, just have some discernment and being able to adjust, because, not everybody walks your path or see or do the same things. And
Yeah.
that's perfectly okay. It's like, I would never tell, we're in business,
Mhm.
right? And, I don't believe in telling other people that they have to start a business. There's some people who will never in their life be cut up to run a business. There's some people who run a business that may not even really should be running a business, or taking a step back and then say, okay, let me look at different things before I engage in my business. Okay. Right. Or a little bit later, but, everybody moves different, and, they have to live with whatever the person that they are, and accept that who they are,
Yeah, I
instead of
like that.
blaming, outwardly blaming, well, I'm in a situation because you're the only person I know, or the only person I talk to, or I can't let you go because if I don't talk to you no more, or if we're not cool, I'm not going to have nobody to share my problems with. That's a narrative that you created in your mind. And a lot of times that's a narrative that somebody else have made for you, or maybe that's just, or maybe it's the familiarity of it. The mind does what's familiar. So if you get into a routine with somebody and you're doing a certain things over and over and over again, the disruption is not so much about how you move, it's just because you disrupt the status quo. And if that person is a very linear person, they're going to have a hard time adjusting with that lack of linearity. And we all do it,
Mhm.
so I don't want to make it sound like that, I'm like immune from it, but I know that I'm more mindful of it. And then I try to make those adjustments as quickly as possible.
I like that, because that is the key. Seriously, being aware, knowing that you're human, but also understanding, hey, I can control how I respond in this situation. Let me truly think about it. And one thing that I resonate with, that is really being aware. All right, not taking it so personal to the point where now you are categorizing and labeling a person. You get what I mean? Just based off of whatever the situation is. Take a step
Sure.
back, like you said, and say, all right, what's really going on? And be able to ask yourself, why do I think this way? Outside of that person, why do Seth think this way about this person? And is it exactly true? Mm.
You got to look at yourself in the mirror, boss. You got
Yeah.
to look at yourself in the mirror. You got to look at your imperfections. You got to see the toothpaste on the side of your mouth and the junk on your eye, and just say, "Hey, this is what I got to clean up." Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you hollering over there, but I mean,
You
it's true
are.
though. I mean, because how many times you don't look at yourself in the mirror,
That's
especially when you're having a bad day. When you're having a bad day, do you really look at yourself in the mirror? Do you
Bruh.
really examine? You know what I'm saying? You see something that's out of whack, and depending on your mood and your mind state, you might feel a certain type of way just because you might have a gray hair, or you can't get a tie to tie a certain way, or maybe you can't get a certain style with your hair, or whatever the case may be, or maybe your beard game ain't tight, but it's,
Look, it's been taking me years, bro. It's still out of
man, look,
line. Look,
man, sometimes my stuff like a tumbleweed,
right.
but the thing is like, being open and honest with yourself first is the first step. It's when you attack yourself and you're always demeaning yourself, that's where that low self-esteem will continue to manifest. And then that's when that negativity, people have heard me say this, it's a fact. The mind processes 20,000 negative thoughts a day. It's up to us on how we accept it, how we condition our mind to we know what we embrace, what we kind of hold in, and what is our true threats, or what's going to really take over our personality or emotions at that given moment. And so, you know, self-assessment, regular self-assessment is really, beneficial. And if your friends really care about you, it doesn't have to pick up a tab all the time, or, they want to go somewhere with you or whatever the case may be. But sometimes it's just saying, hey, I need this particular space for a moment, and you respect that, and it's not, nothing personal. Like, I mean, sometimes we go months without rapping and stuff, but our friendship has never faltered,
That's
and
right.
I consider you as a friend.
Mhm.
And so, and if I don't hear from you, but I see you doing stuff on Facebook, I don't feel any type of way. I don't feel any. I used to, not about you, but I used to feel a certain type of way back in the day, because then I understood how social media was, designed to really mess with our thought process.
That's right.
And especially now, since they're going to take away the guardrails, right? So, you know, if you're feeling a certain type of way, it's because Facebook is making you feel that type of way. So
Mm.
if you feel depressed about the election and all this other stuff, and you keep talking about it, guess what happens, boys and girls?
The
It just
algorithm, yep.
keeps it just
Mhm.
keeps pumping you. It's just like dope, you know. It's keep
Mhm.
pumping you with dope. And so when you're commenting and you're always clicking and you're looking at the videos and stuff, you look at fight videos. Guess what you're always going to see?
Bro.
You see what I'm saying? And then your mind's going to receive that. You're going to keep watching it, and it continues to get that dopamine hit, right? And so your relationships with other people can be the same way and stuff. So you know, not all relationships should be labeled as toxic. There could be toxic interactions, but again, you should know when you should organically let the relationship expire. And you know, hopefully, if you do let it expire, that you know, prayerfully that you have an opportunity to rebuild a bridge, because all bridges that's destroyed can be rebuilt, but it has to take two people to invest into rebuilding that bridge together.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right, brother. Look, as we're getting ready to wrap it up, man, I do want to ask you this.
Yes, sir.
You know, for our listeners, if you can share one practical step people can make to strengthen their circle for support today, what can they do? What would you recommend?
I think that when you start interacting with anybody, from the people that you know or the people that you meet, I would ask you to listen first and try to listen and see what they're really trying to say. Because a lot of times when people speak, you know, there's a lot of, you know, 85% of our communication is nonverbal. So that's the first thing. The other 15% is verbal. So, you know, just that active listening, even to the nonverbal, really makes a big difference. And I think that can really help you discern how to interact with the other individual, whether it's a stranger, could be your friend, it could be a family member, or whatever the case may be. And so, by doing that, because you are listening, you're going to inherently pause before reacting. And so, when you're having a conversation, if you find yourself cross talking with somebody all the time, it's because you wasn't really listening. And I do it sometimes myself. And sometimes cross talk happens, right? But if you're always cross talking, or if you're asking a question and somebody's trying to answer and you cut them off, and then you want to go into this tangent about something else, you know, you're not giving that person that time and opportunity to express themselves or answer your question. And then so that person, because they cut you off or whatever, you threw somebody off, or person may not want to continue their conversation. You've already had a narrative that was like, first it was 90% wrong, now it's probably 95% wrong, because you didn't have a chance to really learn from that person. So active listening is very powerful. You know, I always believe, and I'm a business person, I'm a organizational behavior person, economics, all that. I really believe that what we do, we know what strategies work in corporate America. We know what strategies help to make us more profitable. I find it really amusing that we are of the mindset that we have to cut off what we learned, what people, companies have poured billions and billions of dollars in research and training, excuse me, things like that, and use that to leverage that opportunity for us to improve our relationship with others, or even to improve our position or provisional standing in life.
Mm. Wow. That's dope. So what you got, ma'am? Final word. What you think about the show? Our
I love
friends.
the show. I
Like,
love the show.
how many of us for real have them? And are we actually being the best friend that we can be? You know, what do you think for your closing thoughts?
You know, for my closing thoughts, I would just say it's important to be intentional with your words, intentional with your actions, and intentional with what type of result you want at the end. You know, you don't want to be at the finish line standing by yourself. You really want to have a circle of people that can support you and be happy for your achievements and for you running the race. So just be intentional. That's really the most important thing.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, Dunk, man, Dr. Dunk, I'm sorry. I'm, you know, I
You
want to
call me
make sure
dumb. You all good.
I want
We
to make sure the
family.
world put respect on your name. You dig? But so hey,
I
where can
know what
people
it
find
is.
no for real? But where can people find your book, man? Books, excuse me.
So I am more active on my professional page, Dr. Terrence Duncan. That's where all my content is shared,
Okay.
as well as my LinkedIn. I do have a personal page, but you're wasting time trying to be my friend on there and stuff, because like at the time I just
Right.
don't I don't do DMs, right?
Mhm.
I mean, once in a blue moon, I might do a direct message and stuff, but I don't do business on a direct message. So my personal life is personal for a reason, and my professional is out there. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Dr. Terrence Duncan. on Facebook. I got my IG hacked a long time ago, never got back on, maybe one day. But also you can go to my website, www.drtduncan.com.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all heard it here, and this is what it is. And so I just want y'all to really, and first of all, brother, thank you seriously for being on, man, and sharing.
Absolutely.
Well,
got the confetti now.
For real, it's everywhere, brother. Hey, it's everywhere. I mean, you know what? Look, this show is really for the community and, you know, those individuals that want to expand their thought process, right? And, you know, really connect with individuals. So it is an honor to have individuals like yourself, Patrice, and people that are tuning in to know that it's important. It is truly, truly important to have these conversations because we can get so lost in our own mind, man. You get what I mean? We can get lost in the sauce and thinking everybody else the problem.
Yeah, that is real. That is real.
So if we're not having these transparent conversations, man, we can, you know, really diminish realistic friendships, and we can be the cause of that and not even know it. You know,
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank y'all for joining us on this episode of the Lion's Den. Hey, hopefully y'all can dig this. This was super, super dope. Tune in again next week. We're going to have even more deeper conversations. Hit the share button, and yeah, we'll see y'all soon. Right on. Later.
Right on.
Appreciate it. I'd like to be back again.
Oh, you will. You will.
Not during football.
Oh yeah.